Welcome to 2024, everybody. Welcome to Ballers and Briefs for January the 3rd. Welcome to week 18. We've been here, been having all the eyes, we've been having all the traffic.
Final week.
Yep, final week, fantasy chase. Ready to drink from the cup, everybody that's out there. And for the ones of you that have already finished your fantasy league, congratulations if you won. Sorry if you didn't. But we'd love to hear from you how it went. I know there's a few guys that popped in and said, yeah, they made it to the championship. So if you took on the glory, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. So we're going to kind of make this short and sweet because there is no Thursday night game this week. There's a couple games on Saturday. But we're just going to kind of talk through a couple things or a few things that happened on Sunday, week 17 in general. We'll go over the Millie Maker, Draftkings, and then we'll kind of just generically, I guess, talk about the Steelers at the Ravens, and then my Houston Texans playing our playoff game against the Colts. So biggest takeaway I feel like people got screwed on is Christian McCaffrey will not play in Week 18.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bunch of reports coming in now. I know I got Pat Mahomes. They're saying he's not starting Kyron Williams. He's not starting. Lamar Jackson's not playing on another team. I know from my in the 10-man, I'm in the championship. Trying to bring it home, but it's getting a little bit difficult.
You got a 50-point buffer there.
I don't know. It's getting a little difficult when you're starting to lose so many players. But I just want to tell the fans, if you still got a week left and you're trying to grab players, try to focus, of course, on the games that kind of matter the most. If you're kind of dropping, pick up the guys that have, that Lions matchup. That one's a big one. The Jaguars versus Titans, where the games matter for playoff importance.
Tampa, Carolina,
Tampa Bay. Those games will probably get the most points from guys that you can kind of readily predict their performance. Whereas in some of these other games, it might be a 3 or 4 regular that's starting, and that's very hard to predict because you're going off of zero information really to kind of project what they're going to do in this game. So again, work those waiver wires hard though, and check everything, please, because it might look like they're still going to play, but if you kind of read a little bit more into the details, especially on the ESPN app, you'll see that they're not playing at all. So just be careful.
So like teams like the Browns, the Browns are in the playoffs, but I think they're stuck in the 5th spot. They cannot go anywhere because of how many wins they already have. They can't go up because Baltimore has already got the AFC North locked, and they can't fall out because there's no team that can jump them with wins. So you got Browns players that are starters like Joe Flacco, Mari Cooper, Njoku, Ford, Kareem Hunt. Those dudes are probably washed for the week, right? The defense might be suspect play. I mean, you probably ridden them this far. I think it's okay. I think they're going against Cincinnati, who I don't think they're going to rest players, but it's possible that Jamar Chase might come out. If they're getting blowed out or getting beat, I think it might be something that you could fade on. Then like for like the Broncos, they don't have anything to play for, so you might get the Jaleel McLaughlin show. Like Javonte might be sitting, Samaje Perine might be sitting, so it might be more heavily McLaughlin over those two. And then you got, of course, they have Jarrett Stidham playing, so their passing game was pretty mediocre at best. I don't know if they're going to rush Sutton back to the one game, and they're out of the playoffs anyway. And then like you just said, the Lions are locked in at the number 2 or the number 3 seed. So depending on what I believe, kind of like what it's really, it really at this point don't have much to play for at that point. If you're locked into a number 2 or a 3 seed, you're still going to get they get at least one playoff game at home because they're the NFC North champions. So you might not see Monty, you might not see Gibbs, you might see that dude Craig Reynolds and like Khalif Raymond and Jamison Williams and those type dudes later in the game, or actually earlier than what you would think you would see them. And then I think the Rams are kind of in the same boat with their spot. I don't think they can fall out at this point. They're locked in, so you're going to get.
They said Cooper Kupp, Stafford, Kyron Williams definitely not playing at all.
Yeah, so like you're going to get like Royce Freeman and Ronnie Rivers, I think, maybe at running back, and then I imagine you might even see Carson Wentz debut as a Ram because they might set Matt Stafford early, and we might get to see Carson Wentz playing as a Ram, maybe. As much as I would have loved for it to have been Stetson Bennett, but I guess my man just had to go to rehab and hasn't been back. So
he's just got to, get some things cleaned up.
Yeah, and then Saints, I think, go full frontal. I think your Saints, like you just said, you got to go full attack mode on Saints players.
Yeah.
I know Alvin Kamara is questionable with that ankle injury. So look at Jamal Williams.
Yep. I agree with that.
Full fade on San Francisco players, not named guys like Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason. You're no CMC, probably no Debo, probably no Ayuk and Kittle. So you'll see just Warner, Charlie Warner, and dudes like that out there.
I agree with that. I think this also brings up an interesting thing in the sense that, sometimes this is why you get away from the weeks, the last week of the season, sometimes where people already had their championship, just because of instances like this, where you could be dumping your whole team potentially, almost, at least for me, a little bit. No Debo Samuel, no Kyron, no Pacheco, no Mahomes. I'm literally dumping like my whole team in the last week, but it's a championship game.
Yeah.
So
that's what a lot of people do. I mean, both our leagues are that way, and that's probably my fault as commissioner. But me, I'm always about throwing out votes, and I'm like, okay, well,
we tried.
We do the weekly payouts, and the weekly payouts just that kind of keeps people involved into that last week. So you got people that want to play or don't want to play at that point. So, but yeah, those are teams that kind of just just keep an eye on it because they're some pretty nasty games out there that could get out of hand pretty quickly. And I mean, like I said, there's not much, a lot of teams that got much to play for at this point, except for all three of the AFC South teams. Those are the teams that you want to target players on. Yeah, Indianapolis, your Jacksonville and Houston, and then you go you kind of have to go
NFC
away.
South.
NFC
it's like the
South,
the AFC South, NFC South. That's where you want to be looking. Look in the South, and pick off those players from those divisions there.
And then those few teams like I'm looking like fringe teams. So Pittsburgh is still alive, obviously. So Houston, I think Buffalo doesn't have anything to play for, as in the fact but they're not locked in. So theoretically,
they still need to win, though.
I believe they do. I think it's going to depend on because I'm looking at. So Houston has the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh. So if the Buffalo Bills lost, it's a division game. So let's just say Pittsburgh loses, because I'm looking at this right now. I'm trying to do the math in my head. So it all boils down to division record and head-to-head. So Houston hasn't played Buffalo head-to-head. So if Houston was to beat Indianapolis, Indianapolis would be 3-3 in the division. Houston would be 3-3 in the division. And if the Buffalo Bills were to lose to Miami, they would be 3-3 in the division. So then it would be Houston and Buffalo probably at both, because they would both have 10 wins. So it's all going to come down to, I think, which team, because I think that maybe Buffalo can only fall to the 7 seed, but that makes sense right now, because right now they have a I don't know, man. Conference. Oh, Indianapolis has a 7-4 conference record, but the division tiebreak was initially used to eliminate. Houston wins the tiebreak over Houston based on head-to-head win percentage. So Houston's got to beat Indianapolis to get in, and I guess Buffalo has to win to stay in. That's if Pittsburgh wins. So let's hear where it gets messy, right? Where if Pittsburgh beats Baltimore, because Baltimore doesn't play anybody on Saturday, then Buffalo needs to win to stay relevant, because Pittsburgh has a better division record at that point, because they're 4-1 in the division. And I believe if 3 teams win in at 10-7, I think Houston would bump Buffalo because they'd be 4-2 in the division, and Pittsburgh would bump Buffalo because they'd be 5-1 in the division, in their division. So I think and they would both be 7-5 in the conference, whereas Buffalo would be 6-6 in the conference. So I think there's some wiggle room there. So I think Buffalo still has stuff to play for, theoretically, if Pittsburgh wins. If Pittsburgh loses on Saturday and Houston loses on Saturday, I think Buffalo's like, screw it, we can't go anywhere but to the 7 seed. I think they'll already be locked in at that point. So really, Houston and Pittsburgh are the 2 teams that we've got to win, and then that's when shit gets crazy after those 2 teams in the AFC. And then in the NFC, it's your Packers, Seattle, and New Orleans still are alive, and Atlanta is still alive because they still can win, even though that they're the 12th seed at this point, and everybody like Chicago is 7-9, they're eliminated, but the Falcons could still win the NFC South. New Orleans could still win the NFC South. Tampa can still win the NFC South. And then you got Green Bay, Seattle, and Minnesota even is still a fantasy or still playoff relevant at this point. So there's a lot of teams that are eliminated, but you've got the matchup is, like you said, Detroit doesn't have anything to play for. Minnesota's got everything to play for. And then you have a head-to-head matchup between New Orleans and Atlanta. And then your Chicago has nothing to play for. They already locked in the number 1 seed in the draft because of Carolina loss. They can't go any higher. Do they play actual people, or do they just go to Green Bay to play spoiler and knock the Packers out of the playoffs, which I could totally see that happening. If I was a Bears player, I would want to go there and be like, fuck you, Green Bay, I don't want you in here. So you're going to sit at home on the couch like that.
You're going to see a little bit of that. You're going to see that definitely in those division rivals.
Chippy.
You see that every year. Just like Detroit knocked out Green Bay last year, and they weren't going to the playoffs, but they knocked Green Bay out and the Aaron Rodgers out last year. You see that all the time. You can see that potentially with the Jaguars game with the Titans, 2 rivals that hate each other. Mike Vrabel would love to kind of, if this is Derrick Henry's
Arizona,
last year,
Arizona doesn't have anything. Arizona has nothing to play for. Again, has nothing to play for but a better seed in the draft per se. But they could play that spoiler and want to try to keep Seattle out of the playoffs. So that's another one that's kind of iffy. And it could be that Kyler Murray still does not want another quarterback to get picked, and he wants to stay there in Arizona. So because he got paid, right? So that's a game that
I think for Arizona too. I mean, of course, that's more of an off-season topic, but I actually think they might need to study the tape a little closer. You might just see that you might just need a Marvin Harrison Jr. big body receiver to match with the Kyler Murray, and off you go. You saw what happened with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. You saw what happens with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. You know, why won't you? I know he kind of had that a little bit the year before with Hopkins and everything, but you know, maybe one more time around in a different system and a different scheme. But if they move forward, I get it. But I don't know. It's guys like him and Justin Fields that, you know, towards the end of the years, you keep watching them and stuff, and you're like, is there something there?
I mean, is Justin Fields is at this point? Are you having faith in a college quarterback that doesn't really know anything, and you kind of can mold him yourself? Or can you just run it back with Justin Fields and pick up that Marvin Harrison Jr. where he's got DJ Moore on the other side and Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side? No more excuses, Justin Fields. No more excuses. If we go in and we suck this year, you're done. It's on you at this point. We give you everything that you needed.
I agree.
And we pick up a mid-tier running back in the second round or third round.
Or get him some offensive line help in the second round, maybe second, or maybe pay for somebody on the free agency market.
Yeah, because I think they have quite a bit of money.
Those type of quarterbacks, I don't necessarily believe that they're just done yet in the league, and especially in the fact that you've seen 12, I don't know, what was it, 8 or 9 quarterbacks go down this year for the whole season.
I think we've had the most starters. We had the most starters ever in a football season. I mean, 58 or something like that. I think quarterbacks.
And I just don't see that's gonna stop any point. This is happening now, like every season, where half of the quarterbacks go down and they stay down. And so that's what I think. Just moving forward. Those guys are definitely gonna get some burns somewhere. So it's interesting to see where they'll go in the offseason. Yeah,
and I mean, and the way that last week's games shook out were crazy in itself. I mean, you see 38-year-old Joe Flacco out here looking like it's 2013 again, and so like I saw this. I don't remember if I sent y'all the meme or whatever, but. People, I can't remember if I did or not, but I saw this meme. Joe Flacco said it was Joe Flacco, and the meme was Joe Flacco for 10 years or whatever it was in Baltimore went against every Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs every day in practice. But you thought Sauce Gardner was going to rattle him, and I was like, I mean, I guess that's a thought. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a thought. It's kind of like that dog mentality, kind of like a Tom Brady type mentality. You see these dudes, and that's who you go against in practice every day, and iron kind of sharpens iron, and he still has the will to win. So I mean, if just by instance, for some reason, if Houston doesn't make it into playoffs, which I hope they do, I might be pushing the Joe Flacco train just because I want my man Nick Chubb to get a Super Bowl, even though he's been sitting on the sideline, so that'd be cool. Dallas, that was bullshit. Like that call, man. I'll go to the grave saying that was a mixed ass call.
Well, I will say that based off of the alignment itself, though, regardless of who went to the referee to make themselves known, based off of what I was seeing, was that it was still an illegal formation. So regardless of the fact of everything else, you still didn't have 7 people on the line. Now, based off of everything else, it did look like, they did report, and that is part of it. But again, based off of what
and they did say it was covered, and it was covered up or not covered up, whatever.
And so from that standpoint, if you can't get mad about that part. You can get mad if they throw one and say, hey, such and such never declared himself, and I get that. But to me, and also I think that you had an aggressive coach and Dan who was mad and angry and like, who cares? Screw it, go for it. But technically, the book don't tell you that. The book tells you kick the field goal there, take it to overtime, try to win in the OT. So sometimes when you don't go for the book, but you just want to get aggressive and you kind of let your emotions get the best of you, it could potentially cost you the game because now you're trying to go for a 2-pointer on, what is it, the 7? That's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And so sometimes one bad thing could cause you to make another bad decision. And then now you got 2 bad decisions instead of 1. You could have, that game could have been completely different had they kicked the field goal and then won it in overtime. But I mean, you know, hindsight is, you know, is 2020. So I'm not going to, but to me, I felt like in the moment you had lost momentum and you had to kick the field goal. But it is what it is.
I also thought about this, that we're talking about fantasy relevance. Philly and the Giants and Dallas and Washington are still both viable because nobody's won that NFC East yet. So they're both 11-5, or not 11-5. Excuse me, 11. Yeah, they are 11-5, and no one's won that division yet. It is not locked. So
they'll all
those
be playing
games.
hard.
Yes, and of course, again, that's both of those games are division. That's a division within a division, and they're going to do whatever they can to not let that team win the division. So those are relevance too.
Good call.
I mean, I don't know, man. Is Miami a fraud or is Baltimore just that damn good? That's 56-19, man. What
I wonder is some of Miami kind of reminds me of the Jaguars in the sense that they're more want to finesse you than they want to kind of get into a fist fight with you. They want to kind of Mayweather you. They want to hit you, tap, tap, and then step away. Tap, tap, then step away. But when you have a mauler that just wants to get inside like Mike Tyson all day, all night, constant pressure, that's what the Baltimore Ravens are. They want to bully you. They want to go out there. They want to be the more physical team every time they play you. They want to out-hit you. They want to outwork you. They're going to run the ball, so it's forcing you to do some things that you may not do because you want to just pass rush all day.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it's a matchup problem more than it is anything else. And when you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson,
I mean, Todd, you can tell me, everybody can say, oh, Todd Monken's offense was such a college offense. That shit don't lie. 56 points. Yeah, 56 points. Blowouts against 2 out of the probably 5 best teams in the league right now. Back-to-back weeks.
At Georgia, I thought that was more a pro-style scheme. Even at Georgia, the way the schemes were working, he used a lot of tight end sets, a lot of under the center. It wasn't just under the snap and do a bunch of gimmick stuff. He did run some motions, but to see him carry it over into the NFL, I mean, that major prop points because it's really hard to adjust to that. So major prop points to Monken, but I just again think that when you got a generational talent like Ravens, it's more so, I mean, like Lamar Jackson, it's more so about not messing it up.
Yeah.
Too many times you try to get too cute or too fancy, maybe run too many zones like they were doing that last year, way too much zones when you didn't need to do that. And which is showing this year, you could run a more open spread scheme concept and that there was no reason why Lamar Jackson couldn't be successful. So he's putting himself up MVP numbers.
Zay Flowers, I think, was definitely worth the pick. I think it's showing Lamar's got faith in him. He finds him when he's open. And I'm gonna say that Isaiah Likely, man, that kid looks good. He looks good. And it's gonna be scary when Mark Andrews is back in full health. What Todd Monken's gonna whip up with that 12 man, 12 personnel, maybe even a 21 personnel, 2 tight ends and then under center, you know what I'm saying? Like that shit is going to be, it's going to be nasty. Like it's going to be nasty because Isaiah Likely seems to be just he's got a nose for the end zone and I feel like he's always there. And Lamar has all the faith in him that he did with Mark Andrews. So he's not afraid to put it to the tight end. So
I agree.
Yeah. other games I kind of thought about. Your Jags put a million over what's it $200,000 fine on, was it 200,000 on 300,000 on
that's just
Tepper.
Lunch. That's just lunch for Tepper at the country club. That's just a brunch. That's fun money. That's the money you throw at the strip club.
Yeah.
You know, that's he gonna write the funny.
Yeah, I didn't see the video. Did you see the video?
Yeah, I did see the video. It was pretty blatant. The way it was thrown, and you know, I hope that the Jaguars organization as a whole, comes out in defense of, when you go to the stadium, you kind of expecting, the stadium to, in some ways, protect you. You shouldn't have to worry about getting hit by a beer, much less from another person. Definitely not an owner. And so, I hope that at some point there's a strong statement made, because you can't have other owners coming into your house, messing up the carpet, throwing beer. It's just like you can't.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
That's a bad look. That's a real bad look. And so I hope, Shad, if you out there, if you're listening, come on, go ahead and flex those muscles a little bit. Let them know that's not okay. You can't come to Duval. Because imagine if those guys would have rushed the thing or jumped into that suite or chased that man down. What would they be saying about the city of Jacksonville today? Yeah. That's the only thing. And so, I think 300, of course, is just, fun money. But
I think I saw that it was like the same fine that another owner was given. It was like another owner was given that same fine in maybe the 70s or some shit that. Yeah, like
it should have at least been $1 million.
I mean, that's just totally just that's not even a slap on the wrist, That's just like, not even a naughty ticket. Boy, you.
That's not even a speeding ticket, man. Yeah, that's like a
billionaire. He's like, I'll throw 3 more at you, you punk
That's
bitch.
the late fee you pay for paying your JEA bill. 10 days too late. It's just a little $9.99 charge. That's all that it is you got going on there, man. It's just a little $9.99 charge, but. It happens, man. It happens sometimes. I guess I would be pissed off too if my team was playing the way Carolina plays. So I guess I would be. And you probably, as a rich man, you're not used to probably losing too much. You everything go pretty much the way you thought it would go. So I think sometimes though with football,
he's got two of the losingest franchises in sports right now though. Like the Carolina MLS team that they just got sucks too. So yeah, it must suck to live. It must suck to live in Carolina and have two of when the Carolina Hurricanes, the hockey team, is better than your football and your soccer team. So that's gotta suck. So my Texans, it's great to have CJ Stroud back. By the way,
yeah,
it's great to have him back.
Yeah, I mean, if the Jaguars don't make it, I would like to see what you guys could do in the playoffs and sort of what big shout outs to D'Amico Ryan and what he was able to do in his first season, having a team in the playoff. That's sort of unheard of. And he didn't necessarily just pick up some beautiful roster from the person before, and he had to do a lot himself to scrape that roster out, clean it out, make it better. So big shout outs to D'Amico Ryan and what he's been able to do. With a rookie quarterback. Come on.
Yeah.
That's hard.
He's a favorite to win the offensive rookie of the year. Only person that's even close is Puka Nacua, which deservingly so. They did say, I did read the other day that obviously with Andre Johnson being a second-time finalist for the Hall of Fame, that Andre sat down with Cal and Nick Caserio and voiced his frustration and how he thought the team could get fixed. And supposedly they listened to him. And that's kind of where we kind of got to the D'Amico Ryans, CJ Stroud being aggressive, grabbing Will Anderson. I mean, that's amazing. Will Anderson has the most rookie sacks as a Houston Texan more than Whitney, more than JJ, more than Brooks Reed. I mean, dudes that have been household names as Texans pass rushers, and Will already has 2 more than the next guy, or 1 more than the next guy, and with one more game, at least 1 more game left to go, So I don't know.
He might get 1 or 2 on Saturday.
Yeah. So
big pickups. They gonna have to give Andre Johnson or someone else gonna give him a call about some work if that's the case.
I would love
their program.
Dre to be in the front office. If not, I think he's pretty much not officially in the front office, but he's in the front office. I mean, I'm sure they call and be like, "Hey,
advisor,
what you think? You are only the best player to ever suit up as a Texan. Who do you like?"
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like, I mean, I feel like Jacksonville should do Tony Baselli. Like, who do you like? You're only in the Hall of Fame.
And I'm sure they do pick his ear, and pick him, ask him about different things or how good is someone doing or not. So,
yeah. So, with that being said, I guess we can kind of, unless there's any other games that you had thoughts about besides the Eagles being frauds.
Nothing more. I'm interested to see, of course, the Saturday games. You won't talk about them, of course, on Sunday. On this coming Saturday. But definitely that Houston Indy game. Watching that one closely and kind of seeing what kind of buffs out of that one. That should be a nice little shootout. I think, as both teams trying to get to the dance.
Well, we kind of piggybacking off kind of what we just talked about. How you said generational talent, Lamar Jackson. Just one person. Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers connection. Somebody $1 million on Sunday in the Millie Maker.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about how that Miami and Baltimore game was a game you needed to get exposure to. You needed to watch those players. And of course, the Millie Maker lineup was Lamar Jackson. Travis Etienne made his sighting into the Millie Maker lineup. Kenny Walker, someone who has been irrelevant all season. Devontae Adams with 40 points. Again, like I said, Zay Flowers. Darius Slayton made an emergence, somebody from a Giants squad. George Kittle, and something's even more crazy. Wan'Dale Robinson. We did call Wan'Dale and said we needed to have exposure to Wan'Dale Robinson, but I would have never thought ever in my life that 2 New York Giants players would have been in the Millie Maker. I mean, the percentage of ownership is just crazy. Darius Slayton was 12% owned, and that was all because he was cheap, and they wanted to get exposure because kind of Phil was saying that people were like, "Oh, we're kind of on Tyrod Taylor as a sneaky play, and you had to throw it to somebody." And he was throwing it to Wan'Dale and Darius Slayton. And Wan'Dale was running the ball too. I saw too, like he ran the ball some during that game. So, and then my Texans defense just fucking mopped the floor with Tennessee, dude. Like I feel bad for Derrick Henry, like I really do. And I feel bad for DeAndre Hopkins. I feel bad for both of them. DeAndre Hopkins, if you are out there listening, please take a pay cut or do whatever you have to do. If you have to call Dre and say, "Dre, put me back in Houston. Give me my number 10 back. Get rid of Davis Mills. I want to come play with CJ. I don't even care. I'll be a third fiddle to Tank Dell and Nico Collins if I got to. Please come back. We miss you very much." So, but yes, I feel bad for those guys because I feel like they deserve a whole lot better. Derrick Henry.
It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. The season started to catch up. The formula that was working for years sometimes started to run out, man. Their
offensive line's trash too, though. Like Tennessee's offensive line can't get they can't get a push for nothing, and Derrick Henry can't block for himself, So
nope. And it fell apart because the offensive line to me fell apart. It ultimately is what it was about. And so, unfortunately,
Drew knows. Drew is he's an Arizona fan, so he misses D-Hop too. So yes, yeah. Yeah. But
this is definitely this lineup, man. I guess that person, it seemed like they might have rolled out a dice, like kind of.
I did read. This guy had he ran 5 lineups in the Millie, so he put in 100 to win $1 million. So he had 5 lineups in. So and they're $20 lineups. So that's not terrible. His return on investment was like $999,900. So that, and he did the stack. So he stacked 2 teams, and we also did say get exposure to that Rams and Giants game, and he stacked the hell out of 2 games that we said to get exposure to.
Agreed.
And George Kittle underwhelmed quite a bit, as did most of San Francisco, and that was a game that had high over under on it too, or higher over under, just because with San Francisco scoring the points. But the person on here that surprised me the most was Devontae Adams with 40 points, when I just don't. That's crazy to me. Like he's been a ghost all season. So like I'd have never paid up $7,400 for Devontae Adams, but he did, and he was 2% owned, and then you even saw Kenny Walker. We kind of were off of that game, and he was 1.6% owned, so it paid off. The ownership, his total ownership was under 60%, so that's pretty good for the whole team.
Yeah.
So,
But
with that being said, I guess we can kind of just go in some rough thoughts about this first game, which, like we said, does have playoff implication. We talked about that, Drew. Brad is on the same page as us about that. It was the refs missed that call, but Brad's true football player comes out in him and says it was an illegal formation, and that he was not covered up, or he was covered up, whatever. So I still think that shit was rigged. They wanted Dallas. They had to give all the Dallas people all the wins, and couldn't ruin Jimmy Johnson's night and Troy Aikman on the call, and so hey, he looks good right now. We'll see. Let's see if he can if McCarthy can do it in the playoffs. We'll see. Take them back to the promised land, but Dallas sucks. So Steelers at Ravens, again, like we said, it does have playoff implications. There is really no injury report as it stands right now. But I think this is one of those that you have to look at. You have to look at your Najee Harris. You have to look at, because Najee seemed to come on the last few weeks and started to show that, okay, maybe I'm not such a bad running back. Jaylen Warren, as we've been calling all season long, Jaylen Warren. I don't know if they're going to roll Kenny Pickett out or Mason Rudolph. It doesn't say. I was trying to look right now and see if there are any reports on that, because it doesn't seem like Mason Rudolph is scared of anything. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that Pittsburgh and Baltimore game with Lamar Jackson out, I think Tyler Huntley's going to get some good run, good play time.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph is drawing the start.
And then just going to see that sort of normal, tough, hard-nosed type of game that you normally see out of Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I expect nothing less. No matter who's starting, you're going to still see that type of game.
I think Melvin Gordon might be getting the start for the Ravens at running back.
Wow.
He Yeah, he in week 17, he had 6 carries for 10 yards and a TD. That's how far away from that game I got at one point. I did not even know it. I mean, I knew Melvin Gordon was on the practice squad, but I didn't even know that they even had 3 active running backs. That because all I kept seeing was Gus and Justice Hill. But Melvin Gordon looks like he was probably drawing the start on Saturday with, like you said, Tyler Huntley is going to get the start. So you're probably going to see your Nelson Aguilar's, your Rashad Bateman, maybe. I don't even know really who's all on the depth chart. We've got to look to see if it says like who they. Let's see, because we know for a fact that it's not going to be any of the starters for Baltimore. At least that's what they're saying. But it's a low projected over under like 35.5, like you just said, like the dogfight bowl. But Steelers are favored by 4. So and it's in Baltimore. But
does the players not playing?
Does Baltimore like, okay, let's put on the brakes here. We don't want another NFC North or AFC North team in the playoffs. We already have to worry about the Browns. Are we trying to play up a little bit to keep those guys out, or what do you think? Like,
I don't think so. I think they feel pretty good about what they've done this year. I just think you're gonna see those backups. It's good to get the backups some playing time because you never know when someone goes down in a real. At least these guys now have some sort of a reps underneath their belt and they're not so cold. So I think it's always important if you can to get those backup guys reps just for that reason. Somebody key could go down in the playoffs.
I guess they could play
some sort of, people that have some background, some experience on the system.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And then, like, it's probably going to say, like I said, Justice Hill, Melvin Gordon, running backs probably Gus. You might see Gus out there, and then that Isaiah Likely, and then that other kid Charlie Kolar, that other tight end that they have that I've seen out there a couple times. But I mean, it's 4 points, Baltimore. I think that. I was gonna say weather, but I don't even think weather's gonna be a factor because these dudes in Pittsburgh, they're used to kind of playing in the cold too. So I could see Tomlin trying to turn the gas up as much as he can. He's secured his like umpteenth freaking winning season. He's never had like 12 or something like that. However long he's been there, he's never had a losing season, right? So yeah, so he's secured that already. I think he's probably gonna have it push the pedal to the metal, and I don't know. I think we need Baltimore. Both of us really need Baltimore to win, so to keep Steelers at bay. So, but I think that with them sitting people and probably going to set majority of their defense too, I think the Steelers probably first teamers are probably better than Ravens third teamers. That's why they're third teamers and not on a first team roster, So I don't like 4. I like 3. I like 3 to the Steelers because I think Tyler Huntley's good. We've seen him as start for the Ravens before, and he's been around with that team for a while. So I like 3. I like they're down 7 or whatever, or down 6, and come back and score a touchdown, So, and then to the game that's the most important to me and to you probably is this Texans at Colts game. 47.5 over under. The spread is 1 point to Houston.
Yeah, I can see. I just see a shootout. Things going back and forth. I think But I could also see Houston kind of pulling away, just if Minshew kind of has that type of performance where he throws a couple of interceptions. So some games he does have that. If that can happen, I can see this game kind of slipping away as well.
He threw CJ in his second game of the season, threw for 384 touchdowns. 384 yards and 2 touchdowns, and had 1 interception in the first matchup. And it all boiled down to, and then he had 3 rushing attempts for 1 yard, so that was not a factor. But I think it all boiled down to Houston. Do they have was Anthony Richardson still playing? Was he hurt that week? I'm trying to remember. Or did he get hurt that week?
I think he got hurt that week.
Yeah, because he got hurt. He got hurt, but he already had 3. That was a week he had 3 rushing attempts, and 2 of them were touchdowns. And he only had 35 rushing yards, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns that week. And then I think he only threw for like 30-something yards, 35 yards. 56 yards, excuse me. And then what did Minshew do? Minshew came in, I think. Minshew came in, and he threw for 171 yards and a touchdown. So, 2 quarterbacks. You prepared for the running quarterback the whole game. He scored 2 early touchdowns, got concussed, and then the passing quarterback comes in, and you have to change your whole philosophy early in the game. I just think that CJ has surpassed Gardner Minshew in terms of quarterback play already, just the season. So I think that, and he was just settling in at the point. The defense was just settling in at that point. I mean, the freaking Raiders almost beat them. You know, like the Raiders played them 20-23 last week. So, and I don't like them. I don't like the Colts. I've never liked the Colts. Peyton Manning was a great quarterback for the Colts. I hated Peyton Manning as a Colt, and then when he went to Denver, it was great, right? Like he was great, but I hated him as a Colt because he was a Colt. So, I mean, you're going to have Jonathan Taylor. He's going to be the most. I can tell you for daily fantasy purposes, he's going to be the most owned quarterback on Saturday. Running back on Saturday, and I imagine CJ is probably going to be the highest owned quarterback on Saturday also as well.
Probably. Just safest picks to go to somebody you've seen in the past who've been able to put up pretty good numbers, multi-touchdowns in a game. So from a fantasy perspective, you're going to try to go back to that hand again.
And then like for running backs or whatever, I like Dalton Schultz in this matchup because Indianapolis, excuse me, I don't know why I'm on that. Indianapolis does give up. They're like 25th in the league against the tight end. And so they do like to give up touchdowns to tight ends. And Dalton Schultz, he does. They do find ways, you know what I'm saying? Like they do find ways to get the ball to him because that sometimes he's kind of a catalyst, you know, like he kind of gets the offense going. And he's that. I did hear on Sunday that he's like he has playoff experience, right? Like he has playoff experience and he's been in a playoff. So guys like him, Jimmy Ward, those dudes are the dudes that are like, okay, well, here's what we got to do to make the playoffs. And when we get to the playoffs, that's what we have to do. So I like him. And I like Devin Singletary too. I feel like Devin Singletary is going to be high on too because the running backs, this Indianapolis is not very good against a running back either. I just don't know how they've been winning the games that they have. They just statistically are bad against certain positions. Which I guess maybe just Minshew puts them in the right place at the right time, and then it's a Michael Pittman touchdown or a Matt Gay field goal. So yeah, not much. I guess you could Texans defense. They're going to be – it's a viable play. I think so. Steelers defense is probably going to be the highest owned with the backups in Baltimore playing. But like I said, 1 point. Of course, I'm taking the Texans with 1 point for sure. And yeah,
I got Houston tomorrow as well. I think on Saturday as well. I think that they I like the weapons that they have a little bit more than Minshew's weapons, and I think they're able to kind of bottle up that a run just enough, not too much, but just enough of Indianapolis to pull away.
I mean, so if things stay the way that they are now, and we get the 7 seed, just say we get the 7 seed, Pittsburgh does not make it. The Colts are out, so we get the 7 seed. We'd end up playing Miami in the first round. That'd be a hell of a game to watch. I'd love to watch that, and it's in Miami, so that'd be fireworks. Look at the over under on that one. That'll be pushing 50 points. So yeah, that's good. And then Jacksonville will end up with what you guys will get. Buffalo, right? No, you'll get Cleveland. You get the 5 seed Cleveland if it stays the same, right? So
yeah, definitely get Cleveland, and so that'll be a rematch of a game that happened during the regular season. So that'll be a nice showdown.
Yeah, that'd be good. Or you guys lose and we end up with a 4 seed. That'd be amazing.
It can happen. You never know.
So, but
it's the NFL. You never know.
Yeah. So if we beat Indianapolis, Pittsburgh loses, you guys would just drop to the 7 seed. If y'all lost, y'all would just drop to the 7 seed. And because y'all have the tiebreaker over Indianapolis. So you just need us to win. Y'all lose or we win, and then y'all need to y'all could theoretically lose. And if Pittsburgh loses, y'all need Pittsburgh to lose and us to win. Y'all to stay in the playoffs. The way that the way it looks right now. Because y'all have a tiebreaker over both of us.
Yep.
So but other than that, man, we went way longer than I thought we were going to. But anybody got questions, put them in the Facebook, send them to us in the chat. We will be here on Saturday like normal. Got to get y'all ready for Sunday. And we appreciate y'all being here with us. And that's it, man.
Have a good one.